Well, good people, we're at Razer, kind of a interesting setup over here. And we have the Kiyo Pro Ultra, which is probably one of the best looking webcams on the market right now. And this is what the EOS-R looks like in subpar lighting conditions. And this is what the Kiyo Pro Ultra looks like. Fantastic quality. I'm recording right now in 4K 30 FPS with HDR enabled, so there's a slight shutter reduction. If I disable HDR, we have a bit more motion clarity in the picture. But for example, if I'm sitting over here, I want to record this entire video about the Kiyo Pro with the webcam so you can actually see what the quality looks like. And of course, we do have a microphone built in, which is also recording and sounds actually fairly decent in terms of clarity. It is located right now right on top of the Razer blade, so it might be picking up a little bit more of the fan noise, but whatever. If you are recording this and you need the audio for like a reference track, it is there, unlike Elgato, who are like, you're going to be using a different microphone anyway, but it's nice to have something there just in case you're trying to sync up audio later. And of course, huge thanks to our CS sponsors. It's been 2 years since we visited the Las Vegas, Razer being one of the main sponsors, so thank you very much. So what Razer is trying to create here is give us DSLR type of quality. As you can see, I have beautiful depth behind me, laser autofocus with face tracking. You do have a little bit of that focus hunting a little bit, but right now we are working with like early versions of Synapse that is perhaps messing things up a little bit. But overall, in terms of autofocus, it seems to be quite solid. And right now, if I bring this up and cover my face, it should focus on whatever I'm trying to hold. Oh, I'm revealed. Right now, whatever it's trying to find my face and will lock on that. There is a setting in Synapse that you can enable to disable face tracking so that it will focus on whatever subject is closest to the webcam. But this thing is $299 in terms of the price, so I think it's quite competitive for the quality it can do, especially because it can do 4K 30 with RAW and 4K 24 uncompressed. But honestly, I don't think that's such a big deal, because 4K 24 uncompressed, who streams at 24 frames per second anyway? This does record in 1080p 60, which is great, as long as you perhaps want to disable HDR to enable the best possible motion clarity. So for example, right now I have HDR enabled. What you're looking at right now is all auto. So auto exposure, auto white balance, auto focus, everything is by default without any configuration from my input, which is really impressive. Normally you have to go in and tinker with white balance quite a lot. And right now I'm wearing this green hoodie, my shirt is black. I look like a real person on this webcam, which is quite impressive because the lighting conditions in terms of actual color with the lighting stuff is quite difficult. I would say this is not an ideal situation for any camera, but the Kiyo Pro Ultra is holding its ground. Well done. So let's talk about that sensor. This is the Sony Starvis 2 with a very large sensor, 1/1.2 inch, so almost a full inch sensor to give us that DSLR, beautiful bokeh in the background and beautiful color as well. Marketing tells us that this sensor captures 4 times more light than a traditional webcam, which I believe just because of how little light there is and how the EOS-R looks, as you can see, versus how the Kiyo Pro Ultra. So again, the sensor really matters. What also matters is the processing, and I feel like the integration with Synapse is actually quite powerful in terms of enabling HDR, enabling correction, because right now you can see we have slight bowing, and so if we enable image distortion correction, it slightly zooms in to correct for that a little bit of distortion, but honestly, I don't care about that. The aperture here is f1.7, which is what allows this whole depth creation. For example, I can create like a really nice foreground element, and you can actually see how the auto white balance is in action. If I bring these hands up, it's picking up some of the color from the monitor, and if I bring this back down, this is the type of auto exposure and auto white balance that the Kiyo Pro all handles inside without any input from my side. In terms of physicality, so the Kiyo Pro Ultra as a webcam feels the same in terms of shape versus the Kiyo Pro. So the circular shape, we have a nice stand that has a lot of adjustments that you can actually put confidently on a notebook, so it's not going to fall. It doesn't have much weight to it, so it's not a super heavy webcam either. So despite having a little bit of that wiggle, because for example, any motion on the surface of where the notebook is would create the wiggle, so that's something to keep in mind. I do appreciate the removable USB-C cable at the back, so you can route it however you like. And we also have a privacy privacy cover that, privacy shutter, third time's the charm, where you twist and it blocks the video, but it does not block the audio. And also we have an LED right above the center to know when the webcam is on and recording. So in 2021, we completed our webcam roundup, where the Kiyo Pro held its ground in terms of 1080p 60, smooth motion. It had actually decent exposure in a streamer environment where the conditions were harsh. It didn't fare so well, surprisingly, in like decent lighting conditions. So why don't we turn to go from this type of lighting environment into a streaming lighting environment? Definitely they've improved with the sensor and quality of exposure and color with the Kiyo Pro Ultra. But what if we add some color into the background to create more of a streamer environment? Let's check it out. All right, so right now what we're doing is 1080p 60 in a bit more of a color situation, where you might have some of like a streamer setup of like some form of color filling the entire background. We are intentionally trying to blow it out. I feel like the camera is doing a really good job of maintaining that color. There is some auto white balance variation happening, and Iber is trying to give me a nice kicker too, so thank you so much for that. It actually looked really good, but this is 1080p 60, so HDR has been disabled just to give us a little bit more of that motion clarity. And again, I feel like this webcam delivers. Now, software is just as important as the hardware for a webcam, and so all the little things for image quality, processing, and camera that's built into Synapse is actually very well laid out in terms of being able to preview what you're looking at and being able to select all the little parameters and tweak them manually. You just have to make sure you're not previewing the webcam elsewhere, and you also cannot be recording with the webcam and tweaking the image at the same time. So you have to kind of come up with your own preset. Obviously, you can do that as well for different lighting environments, which I guess is very much, necessary. The most important thing in the software, I would say, is the mode for focus, either face or standard. So the standard is the one that will pick up whatever is the closest, and face will also pick up whatever face is the closest. So if you do have multiple people in the scene, at least whoever will be the closest to the webcam is going to be, the one in focus. We also have tracking, so passive and responsive. Responsive being a little bit more, quick to find the face, and lighting type between standard and stylized. That's something that stylized you should be enabling if you are going for a more colorful effect. But if you're going for the most true to life colors and exposure, I would say leaving the processing with HDR off in certain environments looks a little bit more real to life. And the last piece of this Kiyo Pro Ultra puzzle is quality at 4K 30 with proper lighting. So I have a nice key light, I have some rim light lighting over here with some green in the background, some orange. So I feel like the exposure and auto white balance is absolutely fantastic without me needing to tweak it, unless I put my hands up here and trying to figure out exposure and stuff. But everything seems to be fairly accurate and smooth. And so now let's talk about the Razer Leviathan V2 Pro. Iber has done a video on it with some good, funny things to say about it, but the new Leviathan V2 Pro adds a lot of technology into the mix with the soundbar. So let's hear what Iber has to say.
So the enhancements to the V2 Pro over the V2 basically make it a whole new soundbar, but it's still one that's laser focused towards the PC gaming market and not a home theater environment. Either way, the intent here was to create something different that pushes the boundaries of spatial audio. So Razer is introducing the world's first soundbar with beamforming, AI head tracking, and THX spatial audio. Basically, the Leviathan uses an IR camera along with an AI algorithm to detect and track head movements. The soundbar then uses that positional data and focuses its audio beams in real time to track your movements while delivering a virtual 7.1 soundstage. That means you'll have an immersive sound experience wherever you are in relation to the speaker. And it actually works better than I expected from the brief amount of time I got to play around with it. But since beamforming only works for a single person in front of the soundbar, Razer also includes a bunch of modes that can be quickly toggled with the onboard buttons. There's of course your standard stereo along with THX spatial audio headset and speaker settings that use the AI beamforming technology as well. Finally, there's a room fill setting that widens the soundstage for more than one listener. Overall though, it's pretty hard to describe the sound produced by the Leviathan V2 Pro, especially without experiencing it for yourself. So if you want to spend the $400 Razer's asking for it, you know, give it a try. You might be surprised.
All right, guys, so thanks so much for watching. What do you think of the quality of the webcam? I think it looks absolutely incredible. The sensor and the software work in cohesion together from my experience here, which is really interesting. You know, the Synapse isn't like in final stages yet, and yet we have a very complete package already. So yeah, let me know what you think of the quality, 4K 30 or 1080p 60. I'm Dmitry, I'll talk to you in the next video.